to What's the Point, where we take PowerPoint presentations and we go through them like we know what we're talking about. Tonight we will be talking about Edgar Allen Poe. This was a PowerPoint done by Harp, but he's not here tonight, so I will be taking his place. I believe he went out and ate too many tacos last night and is suffering from a bit of the IBS. So I will be the one that is presenting Edgar Allan Poe to everyone. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Let's start right away. Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, maybe if we actually click on it and we do it that way. There it is. Poe's family. Poe was born on January 19, 1809, and died on October 7, 1849. Edgar was the second child of the famous actress Elizabeth Arnold Hopkins Poe. I believe there is no relation to Sir Anthony Hopkins, but I cannot be certain of that. I mean, they do say that acting runs in the family; it's in the genes, and so who knows? It could be great grandmother to Sir Anthony Hopkins, or great aunt, or something of that nature. And actor David Poe Jr. Fun fact: David Poe Jr.'s father's name was also David Poe. Poe had an older brother, William Henry Leonard Poe, and a younger sister, Rosalie Poe, which sounds very poetic. Rosalie Poe. So there's that. You like that brand? That's fantastic. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you're loving it. This is fantastic. This is a good start. This is how we start off well. So that's Poe's family, and as you can see, he was 40 years old when he died, and that is unfortunate. So here's my question, though, that I have now. It does say that he was born on this tombstone. It does say that he was born on October 9th, 1849, and lived until November 17th, 1875. Unless that was when they buried him there, and then they moved him later. So if this is actually the case, then those are the dates that was his burial place. Okay. I figured it out. Original burial place on top. That's what I kind of was wondering. I was curious, and it kind of made sense with the date of October 7th. A couple days for the embalmers and all that to take care of it. So, those are a potential forgotten acting dynasty. Oh, maybe he is a brand and a zombie. Fantastic. Next slide. Well, growing up, his father abandoned their family in 1810, and his mother died a year later from consumption. Now, consumption isn't the same thing when talking about the disease as consuming food. But don't get that confused. She didn't consume food until she died. Well, I'm sure she consumed food up until she was, but it's not why she died. It was not. They went to dig him up in 1875 and he wasn't there. Well, that's kind of creepy. After his father abandoned them and his mother died from consumption, he was adopted by John Allen. And in 1815, the Allen family sailed to Britain, where Poe attended grammar school in Irvine, Scotland. Yes, Scotland. In 1826, he studied at the University of Virginia, and his main areas of study were Latin and poetry. Now, there seems to be this theme of moving all over the place. He's a roamer, which a lot of poets, You do that. He is the spirit that moves Halloween. Yes. Ooh. In 1827, he enlisted to West Point and rose to sergeant major, but got himself kicked out by not attending class. That's unfortunate. To get kicked out as a sergeant major because you don't go to class. Next slide. Now we're getting into the meat of who Edgar Allan Poe was when his mind became crazy or whatever, that's because that's the things that happen. He wrote various poems and short stories all throughout college. In December of 1835, he was hired as the editor of the Southern Literary Messenger. Now, the Southern Literary Messenger was a publication that basically what they did is they had an underground printing press, and they would print their little publication and then send it out. They would to everywhere that their people could reach. He sounds like a smart guy. You like poems? Yes. Yes to both. That's great. He published Berenice in Southern Literary Messenger. And, fun fact, it was the first work to feature dead or dying young woman. So, macabre, or macabre, however you would care to say that word, would be the term used for Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. In 1840, Poe published his Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque. That rhymes. He's a poet. That follows. It featured Berenice and the fall of the House of Usher. Now, let me inform you here that Usher is not referring to the rapper / dancer. This was well before Usher's time, the rapper / dancer. This was he wasn't alive, and Poe was not known for predictive fiction. He did not predict the future with his fiction. So, don't get that confused. Don't get it confused. Okay. Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque. I love it. Gonna steal it for me. All right? He's been long gone. I'm sure he won't mind. Those poor women. No, it was the actual Usher. Usher is a vampire. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Very interesting. I'll lock that one away in the old noodle here. His Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque did establish him as a master of the short story. So he did, his poems and his short stories throughout his career. And one of his most famous, I believe, was Quoth the Raven, which inspired That's So Raven, the Disney Channel show. He wrote during the American Romantic movement, although his stories were not so romantic, I would have to say. For the most part, his forte was the short stories and poems, as aforementioned. I'm having a blast. I'm glad you're enjoying this. This is what I do. I try to bring false information to the nation. See, I can be a poet. I rhyme words. He was best known for his mystery stories and macabre. There's the word. I told you. I know a thing or two. / Gothic stories. He was considered the inventor of the detective fiction genre. I bet you didn't know that. So, anytime you see any detective story, you look at Edgar Rice Burroughs. I mean, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The detective story came from that time. Romanticism, drama, some kisses and murders. Yes. Sorry, I have something in my throat. Spooky is the correct term. And he contributed to the emerging science fiction genre. Now, the science fiction genre is very predictive a lot of times. But again, like I said, Edgar Allan Poe did not predict. Because there has not been a show called The House of Usher. So, how can it fall if it's his house and it's Usher? So it's a different Usher. Sorry, I had to clear my throat and get some liquids in there. Next slide. These are some of his famous works. Annabel Lee, The City in the Sea, The Raven. The Raven is the one that quotes the Raven, nevermore. You know, the bird, the Raven. To Helen and Ulalume. And his short stories, the most famous ones, The Cask of Amontillado, The Pit and the Pendulum, which is a crazy short story, I have to tell you. The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather. You know, tar and feather, it's like a torture thing they did back in the day. They'd tar them and then put feathers on them. The Telltale Heart, and The Fall of the House of Usher. Again. And there's the House of Usher, which kind of looks like it could be confused for the House of Escher. So, I think Star Wars was idealized by him with Usher and Sir Anthony Hopkins. A plus pun. Well done, Nico. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to, like I said, bring some information into the universe. Lots of laughter from Chad. That's good. That's what we want. Symbolism. Now, he used symbolism in a lot of things. The small fissure. I'm not going to talk about my small fissures. That's a different thing. It represents the disruption of unity of the family. And it eventually tears family and mansion apart. So I'm guessing that this might have to do with the House of Usher and the fall of it. Good memories. Oh, back in those days, we didn't have TV, so we read some odd books. Yes, absolutely. TV? What's that? I don't know. I have one. Or two. So here's an excerpt. Perhaps the eye discovered a barely perceptible fissure, which, extending from the roof of the building in front, made its way down the wall in a zigzag direction until it became lost in the sullen waters of the Tarn. The Tarn is the river that was by the house, the mansion. So, small fissures. I said I wasn't going to tonight, and I did. Pro tip: don't search the small fissure on Google. 2 for 2. Yep. Excuse me. One moment. That's better. Because it will be butts. It will. Welcome, War on Thursday. Welcome to What's the Point? We're about halfway through this, maybe a little bit more than halfway through. Like I said, drama, kisses, murderers. This is the prototype of the Mexican soap opera. Or all soap opera? Yes, exactly. All the soap operas. Next slide. Character development, Roderick Usher. See, this is about the House of Usher. Mainly mentally ill, but he also takes on physical ailments. So he's mentally ill and physically ill. That's a killer combination, if I say so myself. Wait, are you saying Poe wrote telenovelas? In the past. A long time ago. Yes, probably. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. So Allan Poe invented Mexican telenovelas. Star Wars had a friendship with Usher, and his mom was the great-great-grandmother of Sir Anthony Hopkins. So I think is what we have determined so far about our Mr. Poe. He was tormented by his own fear. He only fears his own fear, not other people's fear. That he laughs at in their faces. I think that's what it is. And fear is most likely what kills him. Although the autopsy report came back inconclusive. But everyone said that is most like it's possible. So we got this is the best stream. Well, I'm glad you enjoy this war. This is What's the Point, and it's I'm going through this PowerPoint presentation that I've never seen before, and talking about it like I know what I'm saying. He had a relationship with Madeline, and that may have been incestuous. Yikes. Game of Thrones much? Maybe. Thank you for this, Nico. Of course, Dan. Always. So now now we know that Poe also inspired Game of Thrones with the incestuous relationships. Others say that the two are two halves of one person. Dualism. Dualism is what that is called. And so, who knows? It could be Usher Madeline, Madeline Usher, or they could have been related. There it is. You are a natural comedian. Thank you. Yes, that is really incestuous if they were two peas in a pod, the same human. Dualistic. That's the most incestuous you can get, actually. So, drama. Yes. If Roderick were the narrator, the story would end with the sighting of Madeline's ghost and be more psychological. But he is not the narrator. I believe that is Edgar Allan Poe that is the narrator of the story that he wrote. So, that's why we don't see the psychological Madeline's ghost. Next slide. Where did the House of Usher take place? I'm pretty sure part of it took place in the House of Usher. But digging a little deeper than that, the house is crafted to place fear in the reader's mind. And remember, Roderick Usher only feared his own fears, not other people's fears. That's a lot of fear within one person or dualistic person. So, he also invented the menage a trois, as I can see, tormented soul. Effects. Inside of the house, creepy furniture adds to the fear. So, poor fear, yes, right? This is very inaccurate. So, everything within the house is creepy and fearful and fear-laden. It's a fear house. Something Rob Zombie would be very proud of, I believe. The spookiness effects. There it is. Effects. I'll give my notes to Harp later to make sure that he grammatizes correctly. There's a lot of grammatical things in this, but that's not why we're here. We're here to continue to talk about Edgar Allan Poe and the House of Usher. Again, not the rapper/dancer. This was before his time. The spookiness affects Roderick's illness, and the fact that Roderick does not leave adds a claustrophobic atmosphere into the house, which I'm assuming is one of his fears. Claustrophobia. The fear of enclosed spaces. I have a fear of enclosed spaces, but we're not talking about me. We're talking about Edgar Allan Poe and his short story, The House of Usher. During the climax of the story, the house collapses along with the ushers. The family, not the people at a live theater event. Their name was Usher. They weren't ushers at a live theater location. So another thing where it could be confusing. So we're clarifying. Oh, thank you for joining my Discord. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Very kind of you. All right, we've got 2 slides to go on Edgar Allan Poe. And this is one of them. This is the House of Usher. It's, as you can see, there's a hole in the roof. Here, I will use my pointer tool. There's a hole in the roof here. So that room is probably filled with mildew and mold. Yikes. They should probably have that looked at. It looks like there's a gaping hole there. So that's no good. No wonder this house fell down. It is not well kept. Maybe they didn't have... Maybe they had people like my daughter who refuses to clean up their toys and stuff, so it fell into disrepair. This is beyond the small fissure point. I agree. This is beyond. Look, they captured lightning strikes in the background. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me. So, and I'm fairly certain that Edgar Allan Poe did not paint this painting. My daughter is awake. This is not helpful. And my camera just died. Give me a second. Go back to sleep, baby girl. Okay, now we're back. Let's get to the last slide so that I can go take care of my daughter before we move on to the next part of our stream tonight. The plot. Events lead to Roderick Usher succumbing to his own fears, which is what we have discovered through this slideshow, when he first discovers that Madeline was buried alive. Yes, the tragic story of Allan Poe. Yes, absolutely. He hides that he knows until he mentally cannot stand it anymore. And his monologue before he sees Madeline about his fears and how he has succumbed to them and how he cannot handle it anymore, and all of this adds to the possibility of the duality of character instead of it being 2 separate characters. Yeah, he invented Halloween. Another false fact that is coming to light right here. This is amazing. It shows that he has given into his fears, and he dies from his fears. That's sad. And then we'll end with this little quote right here. There was an iciness, a sinking, a sickening of the heart, an unredeemed dreariness of thought, which no goading of the imagination could torture into aught of the sublime. So, and also psychology. Fun. All right, everybody. That is the end of the slideshow. So, what have we learned? Edgar Allan Poe is the father of Halloween, psychology, other things. He is related to Sir Anthony Hopkins somehow. All this stuff. I want to write like this guy. Hey, he's a good person to look up to for that. Clap, clap, clap. Thank you. I appreciate it. That concludes this episode of What's the Point? I'm delighted, Nico. Amazing. Well, thank you. I do my best. Next week is going to be much more technical. It's going to be much more intense. So bring your thinking caps and get prepared for things that are it's going to be crazy. Oh, yes, he was a friend of Usher, the vampire. I need to go take care of my daughter I feel like I'm already 3 for 3. Probably. So I'm going to be right back. And when I come back, it'll be time to play some games of Fortnite with Mr. Chad. So give me a few minutes. I will go take care of my daughter and I will return. See you soon.